Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on the Mike with Mike, the premier business radio program around. I'm your host, Mike King. Appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine. I have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host, information, or ads on the station. I don't work for the station. My program just airs here on a daily basis, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in. This is part of the Mike King Biz Radio Network, which is ESPN Richmond 106.1, The Choice 105.3, as well as International Business Growth Radio. We are here with our good friends from Poplar Springs. Welcome back, folks.
Hey, how you doing?
All righty, so it's Misty and Lamar who were, they're regulars here. But see, they didn't come by themselves. Well, one, we'd just like to thank them for being sponsors of On the Mike with Mike, as well as being a sponsor for the newly formed Petersburg Colonial Heights Chamber of Commerce. So shout out to John Brandt and all the great things he's doing down there. Poplar Springs is they're really great supporters of the community, and that's something that they're doing. It's always great to have the Chamber of Commerce back, and they are supporters of them. Misty, Lamar, welcome back. But you didn't come by yourself. You guys always roll with some really cool guests. Who'd you bring with you today? All right, before we get started, Lamar, let's do the elevator pitch for Poplar Springs.
Absolutely. So my name is Lamar Talifer. I'm the Director of Business Development for Poplar Springs Hospital. If you have a family member or loved one that is in need for mental health services, we provide an array of services at Poplar Springs, from a program for adolescents, adults, and also the military. But today we brought our guests back because last week we spoke to you about some of the stresses that our adolescents are dealing with.
Yes.
And so I brought Dana,
Yep.
who is, let's introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dana Cronkite, and I'm the residential military liaison for the state of Virginia. And I represent 8 facilities in Virginia that are all behavioral health hospitals.
And you got a little bit of history of understanding the military.
I do.
Yes, you do. I'm going to give a shout out. We're going to give a shout out to the background that makes you an expert on it.
My husband just retired from the Marine Corps December
Hoorah.
31st. And we just relocated back to Virginia to start that super scary civilian life away from the military. But I was very fortunate that I have experience working in behavioral health and had an opportunity here in Virginia to represent the military families and be an advocate for those families when they have a child that's in need.
All righty, and we hit up with Misty. So a lot of times you are the first point of contact. Give our folks an idea of what you do here as well.
So I'm Misty Nichols. I'm the Director of Admissions for Poplar Springs. My department is responsible for all of the admissions for acute, RTC, military. So basically, if you call us at the 866-546-2229 number, one of my staff is available for what we call a mini telehealth assessment. We'll get basic demographics, find out what's going on, make sure you really understand mental health. And then we will also determine what level of care you need, and we will direct you to that point of care.
All righty. So in the last few weeks, we talked about the military unit that you guys have. We talked about the Grove, which is the outpatient. You also have the evening hours. Let's touch on the evening hours really quickly because that's something that's important.
Absolutely. So we just rolled out our nighttime IOP program. It is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. So if you have someone who is probably working a full-time job but still needs some services, you can feel free to give us a call at the 866-546-2229, and we could do an over-the-phone assessment and get you into that program.
All righty, on the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond, that's where we are right now. So we did talk about with you last week, Lamar, as well as with Kent. Suicide is something that's very prevalent. It's a topic that we touched on really quickly. Misty, you said when a person's in an acute situation, they call you, you're not letting them off the phone. You're making sure that they're taken care of.
Exactly. So a part of the mini telehealth assessment, we do offer crisis intervention. We can actually talk to you to kind of figure out what's going on. If you are in an acute crisis, we will not let you off the telephone. We will do a wellness check with the local police law enforcement. So we will make sure that you're safe before we get off the telephone. If we find out that you are safe enough to make it to the hospital, we will schedule an assessment time for you to come in and actually receive the care you need. If we determine whatever level of care you need, we will direct you to that care, but we will not just leave you on the phone by yourself.
All righty. So I didn't realize it at Poplar Springs, you guys had a real military
Absolutely.
facility. I thought it was just, hey, GIs come there and just sort of get better. You're like, no, they're there running PT and everything. So you're here today to talk about that component as well. Is it that component?
No, so today we're here to talk about we have a residential treatment center. This is only for adolescents
Okay,
from ages 11 to 17.
but are they tied to military families?
Mhm.
Yeah, because we do take TRICARE. So
Okay.
it is TRICARE certified. And in addition to what we have at Poplar Springs, we have, as Dana was mentioned, we have 7 other sister facilities throughout the state of Virginia. And all of them are able to service adolescents, but they have different specialties.
Okay, Dana, I always ask people when they come in, how are people doing out there? So you're from a clinical side, how do folks do it?
I think folks are really struggling these days, and we've seen a change over the past 2 years with our pandemic and just the level of acuity that we're seeing with our patients. So, you have a lot of patients that we see that are in crisis that Misty talked about, but then we have these children who are stabilized. They're no longer in crisis. However, they need 7 days a week, around the clock clinical care. So that's where these residential programs really come into play in our state. And Virginia is really fortunate because we have a lot of resources in the state of Virginia to treat a broad range of issues, all the way from autism spectrum to intellectually delayed, all the way through Gen Psych and to some other programs that our other guests is going to speak about. But we've really saw the need in Virginia that these problems are becoming more prevalent. And how can we all work together, our sister facilities, to be able to provide the best care for the kids that are out there?
One of the things, so they're not in an acute situation anymore.
Mhm.
What can a parent see that, okay, we think they're at this point, they've been doing pretty good, but all of a sudden they're starting to slip a little bit? What are some of the signs that may be the case?
Well, there's a lot of different things that parents look for, but a lot of these children who are in residential treatment are very chronic in that they've had multiple acute hospitalizations. They may self-harm on a regular basis. They may have had multiple suicide attempts. A lot of children aren't able, when they have psychiatric conditions, they're not able to regulate their moods the way that you or I would. So they act out. They don't know how to handle those emotions. So they act out behaviorally. So our residential facilities are trained to be able to provide these kids with the skills to learn how to cope with these emotions that they're having that they're not able to necessarily regulate.
All right, on the mic with Mike, we're here with a good friend from Poplar Springs Hospital. Misty, do they go in through your department to get into what she's talking about?
So there's actually a few different ways that you
Okay.
can get into a residential. Not necessarily do you have to come to an acute, but currently and most recently starting this year, we have a Virginia RTC call center,
Can you tell me what RTC is?
residential treatment center.
It's easy enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I was waiting for something big and complicated. I'm like, all
You
right,
looked at me
and
like,
Missy gonna come up with the whole 3 big words. Okay, I understand that. All right, so fine. Thank you.
so to make a direct referral to an RTC, the Virginia KidLink RTC call center can be reached at 757-922-3332. And basically, the call center will take pretty much the same information that I will, what's going on with the kid, collect some information, documentation, and then they actually will read through and disseminate it to the sister facilities that are appropriate. And so some of our sister facilities include Harbor Point, Newport News, the Hughes Center, Kempsville, North Springs, Cumberland, and Liberty Point. And they're all located in different areas of the state of Virginia.
And they all provide the same services?
They all provide different services. So some of the times our facilities may overlap in some services, but we all have different services that we can offer.
Okay, so, and Poplar Springs is just one of the hospitals in the network.
Yes,
Correct.
so it's 1 of 8.
Okay, so no matter where you are, you're able to get assistance. How did COVID affect you guys for people in like rural areas? Did really the telemed, did it help? I know Kent had said that telemed really played a big part in it. Has
It-
that helped?
I think that it has helped in some ways, but then as well, there's also been some hindrance, right? So I think with the pandemic, it opened up a world of telehealth that wasn't available before. So we do see that there are a lot of children and adults who were able to get that mid-level of care that they weren't able to get before. But what that has meant for us at these facilities is that when we are getting patients who can be referred by their parent, by their mental health provider, by an acute hospital, is that they are far more acute than they were before.
So they're having a lot more issues than in the past.
A lot more issues because you are seeing those children who have more mild symptoms are getting the treatment that they need in the community. Mhm.
Alrighty, give our listeners something that they may be shocked about with parents, with kids acting out. Is it something that, that most people would not know? You're a professional.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we may miss those signs. Like Misty had said, sometimes younger people don't have the ability to articulate what the problem is, and so I'm just gonna act out. Well, is there anything else that a parent could sort of be on the lookout to say, that's not how it was before?
Isolation, I think, is a big one.
Really?
Absolutely. I think that when our children, especially as they move into adolescent years, they tend to isolate a little bit more naturally. And I think that that is one of the warning signs that as a parent, I have a 13-year-old daughter, so I can completely understand we overlook it at times because it's a natural thing that our teenagers want to do. But when you have an individual, a child who is in true crisis, they're going to isolate themselves away from everyone because they don't want anyone to know that they're struggling.
So is it true isolation? Like before, when we went to our corner before and we isolated, we went by ourselves.
Mhm.
Do they go now with their phone and go with the technology?
They absolutely can. I think it's just more having those intrusive thoughts. It may not be necessarily that you're always by yourself physically or that you are not on social media or whatever it may be, but I think, does that make sense? Like isolated inside your own emotions.
So we're not sharing even though I'm doing everything under the sun on my phone, I'm still really keeping my emotions inside.
Absolutely. And I think that as you bring up the phone, that is another way that parents can stay in tune with their child, is having, an eye on what are they doing when they're on their phone? What type of YouTube videos are they watching? Because a lot of these things that our children watch all the time have almost hidden messaging that can be detrimental to our children. Mhm.
Alrighty, so I remember last week, Lamar, you were talking about, the pressures that are on these kids these days. Before it used to be, you went home, you got away from the pressure, of school. Now it's 24/7. Everyone has access all the time. It puts real pressure on the kids. And sometimes that shows up and manifests itself in not so positive ways. But you guys have the ability and the facilities to help out that. So Misty, can we find out where we can reach folks at again?
Absolutely. So for the KidLink Virginia Residential Treatment Center.
RTC. Yeah, to be clear. I'm sharp.
Call center, they can be reached at 757-922-3332.
On the mic with Mike here with Misty. She's given us the information. She is the intake director.
Mhm.
The director that's a big title there. That's important because a lot of times you are the first person that people come in contact with, and that sets the tone. Let's talk about Poplar Springs and your commitment to the community. So as I said, we'd like to thank you for supporting the newly formed SOFA, that is the Southern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. That's Petersburg and Colonial Heights. You guys are also Rotarians.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he said
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about that right there. And on top of it, we're coming down to your location to broadcast from there. Man, Mike has stepped up in the world. We moved on up like
Petersburg.
we moved on up like George and Weezy. We definitely did. All righty, so give us an idea of what's happening down there, the things you guys are working on, and why it's so important to work with the community.
Sure. I mean, we have, I guess, a continued support of the local area I said, Misty and I are both Rotarians. We're doing a lot of community service work. We also, I think Kent mentioned at one point, we were doing barbershop talks locally just about, COVID, getting vaccinated, and also mental health services that we do provide. And now we are very much a part of the Colonial Heights and Petersburg Chamber. But yeah, we're all about reaching out to the community, letting them know about services, and letting them know that we are here to help.
Okay, you guys are one of the sponsors for the Home and Garden Show.
Yes.
There you go. And I'm coming down there for that. I'm doing, I'm doing home and
Yeah,
garden.
Mike, we're everywhere.
Okay.
We're everywhere.
You guys are everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. That's what Poplar Springs, that's what you're doing, because it is an important time with us right now. And we're coming out of a pandemic. I always ask you guys how people are doing. Some people are struggling, no one's doing great. Some people won't say they're not doing great.
Right.
They're like, how you doing? I'm fine.
That's
I'm
right.
fine. That's the knee jerk.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times people don't ask me, because if I tell you, you'd be like, oh Lord, why did I ask him that? Because there's a lot of important thing that's going on right now. So one last time before we go to our next guest, how can people find and get information about your program?
All right, so you can reach out to us here at Poplar Springs at the 866-546-2229. When you call in, someone from my staff, from my department will be available. We'll be sure to help you and get you exactly what you need.
For parents who's out there, one or two tips as far as dealing with their kids, trying to help them get over the hump if they're starting to see something.
I think the first thing is to stay engaged with their children, be aware of what they're doing, and talk to them.
You're an expert. You got a 13-year-old.
I do. She's awesome.
I thought I would have been a great girl dad, but 2 sons and 3 grandsons, and then I get a granddaughter. You're different.
They are girls
You're
are different.
different. Yeah.
Mhm.
One minute I'm the man and I'm, doing the Michael Jackson moonwalk. 5 minutes later, what happened? How did I get to be the worst person going? The mood swings are just,
Hey now.
that's right.
I know, I'm thinking like, with women over.
It's rewarding though.
Oh, rewarding.
It is,
It
because
is.
you get that warm and fuzzy.
That was a good turnaround,
That
Mike.
was.
That was a good
No, my
Right.
wife knows. I would have been a great girl dad. My sons under they would be like, hey, whatever, but they understand. I like the feel of people being around, and that's why with this radio program we do what we do, which is how business can help society be better. That's why I work with Poplar Springs, because that's what you guys understand. Working with the community. On the mic with Mike, we got to go away and take a break, because I always say the microphone ain't free. Plus, my grandkids need stuff. We'll be back on the other side. There we go. All righty.
Good deal.
All right.
All righty.
So
All right,
Eugene,
Eugene.
how do you want to go solo, or what do you want to do? Oh, okay.
He said, yo, what you mean you gonna leave me by myself?
What do you want to do? Just talk about your program.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just leave this all out.
Yeah, but just in case I need to refer to just the facilities, let me see. Yeah, this is fine.
Okay.
What was the number? I think I wrote it down.
Well, so look, I feel like.
All right, there you go. All right, appreciate it.
On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond, 106.15, 7 a.m. We're here with Poplar Springs. They are leading things off today. So Mike is back, Lamar is back. He brought a subject matter expert in. He was off to the side. We put him in from the bullpen, talking about, they got a bunch of different programs over at Poplar Springs. It's not one little thing that they do. What do you say? You guys have 4 different hospitals on that?
So we actually have 7 different sister facilities spread all throughout Virginia.
How many do you guys have down in Petersburg on that one?
So just 1 in Petersburg.
But different, you guys have different hospitals.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we have 4. I call it 4 separate hospitals. It's actually 4 distinct programs. So we have a residential program for adolescents, a military program, acute, and also outpatient.
And that's the Grove.
Yes, sir.
See,
Yes.
look at me. ladies and
Right,
gentlemen. That's up to, and I also know what, Misty,
Yes,
what is it?
RTC.
Residential Treatment Center.
Yes.
There you go. Good
Man,
job.
please, I'm ready to get a job down there.
Come on.
Exactly. I don't know how long I'll be lasting. I bet you'll be sending me back to do this radio thing. All right, we got, Lamar, introduce our next guest, and we're going to talk about some of the great things that's happening in his program.
Absolutely. So in addition to Poplar Springs, like I said, we have 7 other sister facilities. So today I brought one of my colleagues, Eugene.
Hi.
So I think introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Eugene Yamofio, and I'm the Director of Business Development at Newport News Behavioral Health Center. And as Lamar said, I'm one of the 8 sister facilities that work in the Virginia area.
Alrighty, so you're down in the Newport News area. Do you guys deal with mainly, step up a little bit?
Yeah.
So you guys deal with mainly civilians, GIs, or what's the mix?
Yeah, mostly civilians, and we do have a military component too, where we accept military families that have TRICARE.
Okay. So when you're out there, give our listeners an idea of yours differentiates from Poplar Springs. So how do people get involved in your system?
Yeah, one of our differentiating programs is a sexually reactive adolescent male program. We call it Project Valor. It's a program that's for 11 to 17-year-olds, youth that have sexually reactive behaviors or sexually abusive behaviors. And we treat them for about a 1-year process.
So it's sexually reactive?
Sexually reactive.
What exactly is that, sir?
So sexually reactive is when youth have sexual behaviors that are deemed inappropriate
Okay.
to family members or friends or schoolmates, things like that.
Okay, all right, so finally have that. And you said that's about a 1-year program.
It's about a 1-year program.
How do people get involved in the programs with you? Do parents contact you? See, as they say, wraparound services. There you go.
Hey, you gonna be working with
I
it.
know.
Right.
Wraparound services. So how do people get to you?
Well, first of all, parents could refer their youth to us. Parents that have identified that their children have sexually reactive behaviors can. Also stakeholders. It could be a probation officer. It could be a referral from the school. It could be a referral from the social worker. Different ways of reaching us.
All righty. And the way the people can reach you is?
Well, so there are 2 ways. You could reach us locally at a facility at 757-888-0400, or you can reach our call center, and our call center services all of the 8 UHS facilities at 757-922-3332.
So it's Mike, Eugene, Lamar is here. They're from Lamar is from Poplar Springs Hospital. They are with us weekly. They're the sponsors of the newly formed Petersburg Colonial Heights Chamber of Commerce. They are also sponsors of the Home and Garden Show down in Petersburg area, as well as On the Mic with Mike as a sponsor. We'd like to thank them for that. So Eugene, I asked people out there how the people are doing. From your perspective, what's it look like down in 757?
Well, people are not thriving as they used to. We want people to do well and thrive, but unfortunately, with COVID, things are not going as they're supposed to. Parents are under a lot of stress. Adolescent behaviors are going up, and services are kind of restricted because of COVID. So parents out there are struggling, and there's a lot of stress all around.
What are some of the things, so in the programs that you work that's maybe different from some of the other programs, what are some of the things, the red flags that parents could see that be like, all right, we might need to get some help, and then what are the steps that they should take to get that help?
I think Dana had mentioned earlier, general psychiatric issues. We see a lot of isolation from children. A lot more time with technology. They're not as engaging as they're supposed to. And just some maladaptive behaviors in school, like, getting into altercations, things like that, shows that they're not engaging like they're supposed to, or they're not thriving like they're supposed to. And so when parents see that, it's time to see a professional. It's time to get help, so that's what we encourage parents to do. Always seek help. It's better now than later.
For some of the services that you guys see, is it a difference between, say, boys and girls? We had a conversation last week when we talked to Misty about, men and women. When at that early level, what's it something that moms look out or dads look out for girls as opposed to boys, or vice versa?
Well, I will say that we are definitely seeing a lot of phone calls for female adolescents. since I'm a male, I don't want to be.
That's right. I just got in trouble a minute ago.
Right.
Like, want to get away?
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess we do have a lot of availability for males. That was one of the reasons that I came on the show earlier. I was stressing that if a male does have a need, you can feel free to give us a call. But I felt that Eugene's program was unique just because it's only for males. Is that correct?
Yes, so this Project Valor for sexually reactive youth is for males only. And we use what we call the cognitive behavior therapy approach. The youth are there for about a year, and they engage both in individual and group therapy. And they have a unit on their own. They are treated like normal youth, but their program is specialized in treating the sexually reactive behaviors that they've seen.
So they are on the facility.
Yes.
This
those are
is
facilities.
24/7.
Yes,
Gotcha.
it's a residential treatment facility.
RTC.
RTC.
There you go.
Right.
You're dropping that on you.
Yeah.
So the alternative, not the alternatives to that.
Mhm.
They graduate, they go away, they make it.
Right.
Is there anything that sometimes it's a year, but maybe they don't make it? Like what happens there? Like,
Yeah, good question. So if the behaviors that we see are extreme and the youth is harmful to other youth in the program,
okay,
we're not able to keep them for the length of their treatment.
gotcha, okay.
We do our very best, of course, to adjust them into the program, but if they are at risk, they are risking the success of other youth, then unfortunately we have to remove them.
So we're gonna give a shout out to our Marine Corps brothers and sisters who are out there. So when this starts off, the military starts off hard and kind of eases down, and you sort of, we start off the hardest to make it initially really hard, and then we kind of make it easier because we learn how to work the system. Is that how you guys go? If you start really hard early, and then you keep monitoring them and keep working with them, and then they really realize what it takes to be outside of the facility?
Let me take that one.
Okay.
So like the beauty about our KidLink referral system is that basically for a program like Eugene just mentioned, basically it's a 1-year program, and then there's a step down. Right.
Okay, what we talked about
Yes,
before.
yes,
See,
you-
look at this.
Right. So you would step down, it might go into an outpatient program. So by using this whole KidLink number with 757-922-3332, they can help you connect with all 8 of our facilities. Not all of them have adolescent outpatient programs. So you can leave Eugene, call this number, they'll help you find another sister hospital that offers that program. So you you stay within the system, it'll be easy transition of care from one hospital to the other.
Step down.
Step down.
Step down, RTC. All right, so really quickly, one last time, Eugene, how can people find you out there? Okay, that's the number Lamar gave it.
Right. Yeah, or you can send referrals to our local facility, and the number will be 757-888-0400.
All righty, and Lamar?
Yep. If you ever need to reach us, you can reach Poplar Springs directly at 866-546-2229. If you have a need for adolescent, adult, military, or outpatient services, we're here to help.
There you go. So Mike, ESPN Richmond, that's where we are. Mike is here. I would like to thank Eugene Lamar as well. Okay, we'd like to thank Kate. Shout out to the mister for his service. I know we got some war stories. See, even the wives have war stories because they are in the stripes as well. So Misty, thank you very much. On the mic with Mike, we are the best. We're gonna talk to you guys soon. We're out. We gotta go.